Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben, and this is the Smoking Hot Confessions BBQ podcast. Hey family, I hope you're well wherever you are and you got that thin blue smoke rolling. Today I've got a really interesting episode for you. It's a SWAPCAST with BBQ Beat podcast. So if you're familiar with Kevin's work, he's got a great podcast. He's in the United States over there and he covers the scene over there. And he actually decided that he wanted to interview Smoking Hot Confessions to find out a bit about what's happening in the barbecue scene here in Australia. So we've arranged to exchange media files. So today's episode is actually the recording that I did with Kevin for his show BBQ Beat. So if you're not following him yet, make sure you look him up on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, the BBQ Beat podcast. Give him a follow. He does some great work. His audio quality is always great. He knows how to tell a good story, and he has some great interviews on there as well. There's loads to learn. So without further ado, let's get into this barbecue swapcast with the BBQ Beat and Smoking Hot Confessions.
This is the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue podcast with your host, Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
Hey, everybody. It's Kevin with the BBQ Beat podcast, and I am here with my very good friend, Ben Arnott from Australia. He is, I got a good word, like captain, head of, big chief, big kahuna, involved with the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. I have to say, the internationally acclaimed and award-winning Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Ben, so good to have you hanging out with us tonight. Thanks, man.
Mate, it's great to be here. Thank you. And it's 10 o'clock in the morning for me over here. So I've had my shower and my coffee and my blood's flowing to all the right places. And I'm ready to go.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I mean, so, everyone, tonight, Ben and I talked about this, and, everywhere you go, anywhere near a news paper, a news show, any kind of broadcast, whether it's public radio or secular private stuff, we can't escape all the stuff we know it's out there. What we can put out there that's positive are the good vibes, the good feels, all the things that we know and love about barbecue. And I can't think of a better person to help us do that than you, Ben, man. So, I mean, right off the cuff, right off the jump, when we talk about bringing communities together with barbecue, what are some things that come to mind for you? What is that phrase in the mind of Ben Arnott? What does that mean for you?
So it works on so many different levels, really. I mean, just as starting with your own family unit in your own backyard there, barbecue can really sort of give you some great bonding time with family. You can involve the different people in the family in different tasks. I remember as a little kid, we'd have my dad just had some bricks on the ground with the grill plate across the top. And our job was always to run around through the yard and pick up the sticks to put in there to get the fire started and burn that down to coals and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, there's just so many different levels that you can involve family on. And then you take it to the next level. So you then take it to the neighborhood and you end up having like a street party in your neighborhood, or, having the neighbors over for dinner, that sort of thing. Yeah. And it compounds from there, So then the next step out will be your suburb, and you might end up doing fundraisers or community awareness events, that sort of thing. I mean, we even barbecuing, or I guess grilling, really, if we're using American terms.
Yeah, because you're talking hot and fast at this point, right?
That's right, yeah. So typically in Australia, until recently, until Low and Slow really sort of hit its stride here in Australia, what we called barbecue was what you would call grilling. So steaks and sausages over direct heat, that sort of thing. And so it's such an ingrained part of Australian culture that if you go to Bunnings, which is like our version of Home Depot, out the front every day of the week, there is some organization there with some flat top gas barbecues, doing sausages, onions, bread, sauces, cold drinks, fundraising for communities. It might be, the Southport girls netball team or something like that. And then, it just escalates and it grows and it grows. And before you know it, you're doing the world's biggest barbecue for cancer research and, all this sort of thing. And it just the simple act of putting meat on fire is something that is a core tenement of every single culture out there. So, fair enough, you've got different cultures that have, different rules about different proteins, and, we don't need to get into that, but, even so, meat on fire still brings people together. And it's just, that's what it boils down to. It's a common thing amongst every single culture. And Australia being a young multicultural country, it's so important for us to make sure that we break those borders down and we come together as one people. And so barbecue has a real potential to do that.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw, Ben, I will put those up here for you. You got some love thrown your way. Lucas Armstrong chiming in.
Hey, Lucas, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah. So where's Lucas from, Ben?
He's from Australia on the East Coast. I think he's just south of Sydney.
Okay. And just to give us all an idea, I mean, I think most people know. I mean, the bulk of, people in Australia live along the coastline in different ways, shapes, and forms, obviously, as far as the bigger metro areas or larger cities. But where specifically are you, if you were to sort of visualize the Australian map, so to speak?
All right. So I actually used to be a high school geography teacher, so this will be a bit of a flashback for me. So Australia is almost as big in terms of like square miles as the continental US. We're about 90% of the size of continental USA. Now, of that size, 85% of the population, we've only got a population of about 27 million. So we've got about 8% of your population. We've got about 90% of the land, but 85% of our population live in about a 150 kilometer band of the coastline around the whole country. Because in the middle, something like 80% of Australia is just red desert. And it's so inhospitable. Yeah. And so almost everybody lives in a band around the outside. So I'm really fortunate where I live. I live about halfway up on the East Coast. I'm on the Gold Coast. Okay. You might have heard of Surfers Paradise. Yep. So I'm about 4 kilometers outside of Surfers Paradise. I can actually see the high rises from my house on the hill. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. And guys, look, one of the things I love about what you do, Ben, on social media, especially on your Instagram and Facebook to a point too, but you really let people into what you're about, I think, in a very all-encompassing way. And one of the things I've thought, I told a good buddy of mine, I didn't realize this. A good buddy of mine is really heavily into BJJ, right? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it's funny enough, I just had a nice conversation with a couple guys, Adriano Pedro and Panhoca, with my buddy Brent Little down in Brazil the other day. And sure enough, that's a big part of your life. So look, this is my show. We're going to take a departure here real quick. I mean, because there's a pretty serious community. We're talking about good vibes and community. And like my buddy says, when he hangs out with his Brazilian friends, on the weekends or whatever, like they're always doing like, basically the churrasco, but they're doing like chicken hearts and, all kinds of delicious grilled, tasty meats. Can you make a quick comparison real quick? Like, cause I know your kids are involved too. At least I saw your son out there with you at one point. It looked like you were it was a great shot. You're like holding him down, like your head with your, it was just so great. Cause you could tell you're having a blast. So real quick departure. How does BJJ factor into sort of your mindset as far as community, good times and good vibes? So it's BJJ is the third martial art, that I've studied seriously. I've always been interested in martial arts ever since like the 80s when my parents showed me the Karate Kid.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Little Ralph Macchio, and so I've always been interested in martial arts. So as a teenager, I studied Taekwondo. I paid my way through university, working as a bouncer in different pubs and nightclubs and things around Newcastle in the late 90s. Very different game to what it is now. I would not be doing it today. And then I got into another Korean martial art called Hapkido, which has got the punching and kicking of Taekwondo with the circular techniques from Aikido, joint locks and manipulations from standing Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and different weaponry as well. So stick fighting, sword fighting, those types of things as well. And I got to 2nd degree black belt in that. And then my instructor moved away to Sydney. Now, Gold Coast is not a huge city. We've only got about 500,000 people. We're mostly a transient population. It's the most popular place in Australia for tourism and hospitality. So there was really only one Hapkido gym, so I had to find something else. And the one thing that Hapkido doesn't have is ground fighting. So I thought, okay, I'm pretty comfortable with my ground fighting. I'm going to go and learn some. I'm pretty comfortable with my stand-up fighting. I want to go learn some ground fighting. And I did a bunch of research, and I found this gym. It was just quite coincidentally about 500 meters down the road from where I work. And I live about 2 kilometers away from where I work. So it was all really nice and close and really community based for me. And it's a gym. It's called BJJ Lotus Club, and its founder and its chief instructor is Kayo Andrade, who is an ex-national BJJ champion from Brazil. So he's the real deal. He's got like a whole room full of different trophies and stuff that he's done. And what he's done is he's used Jiu-Jitsu and, funnily enough, barbecue to create a real international community in that gym. So we've got students from all around the world who a lot of them are actually students here in Australia. So they've come to Australia to learn some English, learn a degree, or a diploma or something like that before returning home. But they want to learn how to take care of themselves and, just get some exercise and stay fit in that. And so we have people in our gym from, 12 different countries, everywhere from Japan to Iran to Sweden. Wow.
That's so cool.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But what brings everybody together?
Yeah.
After grading day, they bring out the Weber.
Yeah.
I donated the Weber.
Nice. Not the brown one that's worth a lot of money, right?
No.
We'll talk about that later.
No. No, they bring out a Weber and they throw on some picanha steaks, and we grill up these picanha steaks and we have a good barbecue lunch together after grading. So it's just funny how all those different things, they all get tied together by barbecue.
Yeah. There's if you guys go to my Instagram feed at BBQ Beat, scroll down and you'll see what looks like these little rolls, these little fat conical shaped rolls. Those aren't rolls. Those are barbecued like chicken hearts, churrasco style. And you just kind of pluck them off and tasty tidbits of deliciousness. And like it's weird. I'm down with heart, like, chicken heart, water buffalo heart. Yeah. I'm not a liver guy, man. Like, I don't know how you feel about liver.
I do.
Yeah, I know.
I can't get my head around the fact that it's a cleansing
organ. I have heard that recently. Yes, exactly. It's super healthy for you. And any livers out there, chime in, let us know. Any organ meats in general, let's queue them up. But I know that was a bit of a departure, but it's clearly a part of your life and your passion. And if you're anything, man, what I love about you, I was talking about to someone about you today. Your ears may have been burning a bit, but I said, he approaches his podcast episodes with like the kind of enthusiasm you hear kids have about stuff they find super cool, right? And I love that, man, because look, again, you don't have to look very far to find negative stuff in the world. And you bring a lot of energy and good vibes and good feels to what you're doing. So again, when I thought about, all right, how can we talk about all that's good, that brings goodness to our lives and barbecue, you were the guy for sure. Let's see what we got as far as some comments. We got, all right. Ooh, Tim's a liver lover. Liver lover. Yeah,
he's welcome to it.
Yeah, and then Brent's down. He's the guy I did the podcast with the two gentlemen from Brazil. Come on, Kevin. Fried chicken livers, a taste of the South. All yours, buddy. Enjoy. That's all you. Yeah. Now, if it's done in a delicious like gravy that I can put on some other things that I would enjoy eating, I'll take all that. I'll just scoop all the little livers off into your plate, Brent. Now I'll do gizzards and hearts, but I don't know. My mom was a country girl, man. She grew up in a tobacco farm, log cabin, no indoor plumbing, like no joke.
Wow.
Place in outside of Danville, Virginia. So really in the southern, central to eastern part of Virginia. And yeah, that was a trip, man. As a kid growing up in Central Florida with all the amenities, rolling up to the log cabin to meet grandma and grandpa. I'm like, hey, Mom, I got to go to the bathroom. Well, you have a couple choices, Kev. You can go outside or you can go to that building. I recommend outside. Yeah. She's like, but if you need to find the building, she always said, just find the Johnny House lilies, right? The Johnny House was where you go to the bathroom. And then the lilies were,
okay.
Yeah. So Brent, you have a challenge. Now you're challenging me, he says, for a special smoked and fried chicken liver dish at Memphis in May. Okay. By the way, Ben, that's an event we got to get you to. Have you been to Memphis in May?
No, I haven't. Although I think I heard somewhere that it's going to be Memphis in September this year.
Oh yeah. It got moved. Actually, Brent and I were talking about this, and I was talking to Heath Riles as well. We have got quite the if anyone out there who is in the business world and familiar with Gantt charts, those line charts that show how things overlap in a timeline with each other.
It's for project management.
Exactly. I would love to see the Gantt chart of September and October for major, massive barbecue events in the United States, because right on top of each other, you've got the American Royal Invitational, followed by on same site, the Open. At the tail end of the Open, if I'm not mistaken, they might be getting ready to load in for Memphis in May in Tombling Park down there in Memphis. You've also got to throw in the mix. Heath Riles with Heath Riles Barbecue was saying, like, don't forget, the 17th Street event in Murfreesboro, right? That's huge. It's a Memphis Barbecue Network / KCBS event double. By the way, shout out Heath Riles. To my knowledge, one of the only people who he grand championed both events at that last year. He grand championed KCBS and Memphis in May. That dude is bad to the bone. And his wife, Candace, there's a story that he's told on our podcast we did together. He couldn't make an event that was not too far from where they live. And so she rolled out and cooked it on her own. And Memphis Barbecue Network, you can do just ribs or just pork shoulder or just, I guess whole hog. And, excuse me, Brent can tell me more about that. He's on there championing up. Catch me if I'm wrong, Brent. But I think the deal here is that I think there were some people, like, she was rolling with the Heath Riles colors, right? And some people were maybe kind of licking their chops thinking, oh yeah, now's the time for us to get one over on the Heath Riles brand. Yeah, I don't think it went down that way. I think she did very well at that event. So don't mess with Candace. She is a rib aficionado. She knows what she's doing. So anyway, I would like to kind of, you hinted at it, and the style of grilling and that you were involved with as a kid, but even at the point where you were kind of out on your own cooking for yourself, right? And you just decided, hey, like, what was cooking out for you? I'm assuming it was still a little bit on the hot and fast side. You mentioned steaks and sausages. Obviously the ugly American in me is going, oh, shrimp on the what everyone? Barbie. Yeah. But, just educate me, enlighten me, take me out of my ignorance, help me understand what you were involved with as Ben was starting to strike out on his own and, cooking with live fire. What did that look like? Early days in barbecue, everyone, with Ben Arnott.
Beautiful introduction there. So the first barbecue that I ever owned, it was a little round orange gas camping barbecue. And we'd actually given it to my father a few years early for Father's Day. And when I moved out to go to university to start university, my father had bought me a car and he gave me that little barbecue and he made me a swag. His hobby at the time was going to garage sales and buying broken things and fixing them. And one of them was an industrial sewing machine. And then he sat there after he'd fixed the machine and said, what am I going to do with this machine? And so then he went to a bunch of caravan shops and bought a bunch of canvas offcuts, and he made me a swag out of these canvas offcuts. And so for the first couple of years that I was at uni, I would just drive around going to different parties at people's houses and things. And in the back of my car, I'd have a swag, a guitar, and a little barbecue. And I think it was like 38 centimeter or 45 centimeter. Like it was smaller than a Weber kettle. And we'd have these parties, 20, 25, 30 people. And I'd basically get a full gas bottle, start it at 6 o'clock at night and turn it off at midnight because it'd take that long to get all the food through for, 20, 30 people on this tiny little thing.
Well, real quick, when you say a swag, is that something that you would use as is that a cover that you would hang from like the back of your vehicle? Like what's a swag? Help me out. Because you said swag and uni. And those were two words that don't pop up in my vocabulary very often. So help me understand. But I know uni was university. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So uni is university. Yeah. Do you know the song Waltzing Matilda?
I do.
Once a jolly swagman can't buy a billabong. So the swagman in Australia's history during like post-war and during Great Depression and that the men that were the breadwinners for the families, they all lost their jobs and all that sort of thing. And so they would walk around Australia looking for odd jobs and doing things here and there. And the swag it's like a canvas bag with zippers up the side with a mattress inside. And so it's also called a bedroll. And so that's what you'd sleep in. You roll it up and
got it. Yeah.
The blankets and the pillows and the mattress and everything inside. And then when it's time to go to sleep, you just unroll it, lay it out on the grass and climb in. So that's what a swag is.
Got it. Hey, little love from our friend, the barbecue ninja, Craig Verhaga. What's up, Craig? Always good to see you in the house. By the way, guys. Oh, he really is. And guys, look, check out, that's two seasons ago you interviewed him.
So I've actually interviewed Craig twice now. Once was last year as part of my American tour of 2019.
Okay.
And we talked about hunting and cooking alligators, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, he does a little of that. Yeah. Oh, hey, okay. Thank you, man. I was going to say, Ben gets a what's up and, I get left in the cold. I see how it is. I don't have the cool accent. I'm just a regular guy. So anyway, there's my bit of love from Craig. But, all right. So what were you cooking for these events? I mean, you said, 30-something people, whatever, what was going on? Yeah. Whatever they had handy, whatever you, could wrangle in on the cheap, what was going on?
Well, because we were university students, none of us had any money. And the people that I was hanging out with, we all had to work like ourselves to be able to feed ourselves and that sort of stuff. We weren't, we weren't silver spoon students. As I said, I worked as a bouncer. And I'm not an overly big guy. So that was kind of a rough gig.
Yeah. But you had the technique. Like my buddy, again, he's like, dude, little guys kick some serious butt in BJJ if their technique is awesome.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to lie. For me, it was mostly because I could talk faster than I could fight. So most of the situations I got out of just by talking to people and talking them down and all that sort of stuff. So it very rarely actually got physical. But when it did, it was pretty big.
So you were getting whatever you get your hands on, basically, whatever was on sale, whatever people brought with them. Was there a lot of BYOM parties, bring your own meat kind of deal,
it was pretty much bring your own everything.
Yeah.
Although I was home brewing at the time as well because I couldn't afford to buy beer from the bottle shop. So all right. I'd put on the home brew as well. It'd cost me $10 and everyone would have a ripper of a night all night.
Oh yeah. What? Were you even concerned with the style at that point, or it was just beer? Or were you going for a certain style, certain flavors?
Oh, I was just curious just to about to do it myself. So I was quite into brewing the apple ciders and the alcoholic ginger beers.
Oh yeah, nice.
And just
cool, man.
Different things.
Yeah.
Although lager is one of my favorite things to brew.
That's probably my favorite beer. I can chew through an IPA about 3/4 of the way down the glass, and then I can't do another one. It's just too hoppy, too much. But those lagers, man, oh yeah, all day, good stuff. Yeah, so nice, man. So work life, at some point after graduation kicks in. You eventually meet your lovely wife, your family life starts, and you had a cool story I heard in the episode you did about the individual up, not about the Cairns barbecue event, but the individual. Tell me the story about the guy up in Cairns. Man, that's a great story. It's like Steve Jobs is of barbecue, right? Like out of your garage is born a business. It's fantastic. Tell us a little bit about that. That was really cool, man. I enjoyed that story because in that story, you can then dovetail into the story about what you found at the house you're in now. That's quite the treasure.
Yeah. So that was Drew White from Cairns Barbecue Company. And if you're not familiar with Australian geography, Cairns is the northmost city of Australia. It's right at the foot of the rainforest that's up there. So it's
that's CAIRNS. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's part of the state of Queensland, and I'm at the bottom of Queensland near the border, and Cairns is right at the top. And it's about a 3-day drive from where I am to Cairns. It's huge. It's so far. And so being quite remote, it's quite difficult to get things like barbecue supplies up there. And if you weren't just cooking steaks and sausages on grill, then no one really knew what you were talking about. But thanks to the wonders of the internet, the word of Low and Slow was growing and evolving in Australia. And so this guy Drew, he became interested in that. And the usual thing, he spoke to his dad. His dad had a Weber, so pulled the Weber out and he got into charcoal cooking, but he was finding it really difficult to get stuff, and paying for shipping for a pallet of charcoal to get from Sydney to Cairns was just astronomical. So what he would do is he actually converted his garage into a mini warehouse, and he would bulk order all these barbecue products in, take out what he wanted for his own personal stash, and then he started selling that off out of his garage. And then from there, he moved to like markets or stalls or something. And so he would sell them just on weekends in a stall. And that's grown over the last 2 or 3 years. And he's now actually got Cairns' first ever permanent full-time barbecue shop. So dedicated to Low and Slow, real barbecue.
What's it like? Lucas says it's a lovely spot for a barbecue competition. What does he mean by that?
Because it's so far north, it's close to the equator. So the weather would be, I guess, like southern Texas. So
okay.
it's warm all year round.
All right.
For those of us down south, or even people like way down south, like Tasmania or Melbourne, it'd just be a beautiful.
Oh, you're talking about Maca territory now.
Yeah. So yeah, I know that a lot of competitors were really looking forward to heading up there for that competition. Yeah. It was a $50,000 prize pool, $20,000 for grand champion.
That's quite big for Australia, right?
It is huge for Australia. And now those were Aussie dollars. So I think 20,000 Australian is about like a Coke and a bag of chips in America at the moment.
No, come on. It's still, that's a big one. That's even if it's half. I mean, well, we can talk about this later, but I think we get spoiled over here in the States when we start talking about prize purses, right? It gets a little ridiculous sometimes. So that'll come up a little later. And hey, Dave, I see you, bro. Thank you so much for chiming in. Thank you as always. But yeah, I love Drew's story, man, because it was one of those deals that you could hear the sort of slow burning passion that he has for barbecue. And I mean, just how he said, I'd go and I'd get, large pallets or big lots of stuff, put it in my garage and sell it off to mates, right? Like just kind of out of his garage, make a business. I mean, dude, that's cool.
About as entrepreneurial as it gets,
right? It's so awesome. I loved it. And guys, look, if you haven't checked out Smoking Hot Confessions, it's on all the major feeds. Just go listen. You're going to love it. I mean, I do. I'm not going to lie. It's one of the podcasts that I absolutely have on. If there's a speed dial for podcasts, it's right there all the time. So, So yeah, it's just one of those things, and you really get the story. And one of the things I like about what you do, Ben, is that you really bring out the narratives when you talk to people. You want to know their stories, and I think that's what makes podcasting so nice as a way to share those stories and get them across. Like when I started, man, like, you know, it was always competition guys, right? Let's talk about the competition barbecue, but geez, you know, like the third or fourth time you talk about, like over here at least, I know you guys do some interesting stuff with like lamb and lamb neck and all kinds of cool, crazy stuff. But you talk about the 4 major competition meats, about the 4th podcast in a row, and you're like, so there's some rub and some injection and some turn-in times and then a lot of drinking and then awards. Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay, I'm good. So yeah, you know, you need to dig deeper and get the stories, and that's where you find cool people like our buddy Craig. Once again, what's up, man? And you know, you make them happen. So, but good job for you, man. That was a great story with Drew, and you know, he is definitely instantly became someone I want to make sure that one day, sometime, at some point, I'm going to wrangle my good old boy. Good friend of mine, Carl Griffith, aka Griff, and he was actually supposed to come out. I think the actual Karen's barbecue competition, Rub Bagby with Swamp Boys Barbecue, was going to make his way out there. They were going to do that, yeah. But and again, like, guys, look, I said earlier in the podcast we were going to talk about the sort of moody blues aspect of life, you know, nights in white satin. But you know, we really, yeah, I know. Sorry, that just happened. It's, if you think you got it bad, imagine what my high school kids have to deal with. It's ridiculous. Yeah, but I keep it 100, Ben, all day, all the time. But it's one of those deals where Drew became a personality that I want to make sure I meet, because he really he's unassuming, but he's passionate. And those are the kind of people that kind of make all this worthwhile. And I know you meet a lot of great folks. So at some point, we got to dovetail. I promise, dovetail into the story that you told Drew about this interesting find you found at your house when you guys moved in. You were kind of digging around, seeing what was what, and you were pretty surprised it was there, and you still have it today.
Yeah. So it was my first actual charcoal barbecue, and so we're talking towards the end of 2008 now. My wife and I bought our first house, and we were going through it all, and it was in a quiet suburb on the Gold Coast, and so it had been a retiree area, and as the retirees were leaving, the younger families were moving in, so we moved into this house, and we're going through it all, and you know, she'd left a whole bunch of furniture and stuff in there, which was fantastic. The house was about 80% furnished. We've still got the microwave. I don't know how old the microwave is, but we've moved house, brought the microwave with us, and
fantastic.
It's got to be 20, 25 years old, I suppose.
That's built to last.
Oh yeah, we just make sure we stand well back from it when we're actually using
everything in Ben's house is irradiated.
Yeah,
that's the, but yeah.
So we're packing and unpacking and all this sort of stuff, and I head out to the garden shed. And I'm pulling all this just junk out of the garden shed, and I see this barbecue. I'm like, what the hell is this? And it's this old brown Weber kettle, and I didn't know it at the time, but a couple of years later, once I'd really got into cooking on charcoal, cooking with Webers, I looked up the year code, and it's a 1984 model brown Weber kettle, wooden handles, all that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, all the tools and all that sort of stuff that were there with it, they'd rusted out. The little charcoal, not baskets, but the little things that clip into the grill and form a wall.
Yes.
I don't know what the proper name for them is, but they act like charcoal baskets, but they're
dividers. Yes, exactly.
Dividers, yeah, charcoal dividers. Yeah, they'd all rusted out, and so I ended up throwing all that stuff out. But yeah, it's inside in one of the cupboards inside was the original manual and cookbook that came with this thing from 1984.
That's awesome.
It was really cool. So my wife and I refer to that as our $290,000 Weber.
Wow, fantastic!
It came with a free house.
Yeah, and guys, just so you know, some of the top songs in 1984. Purple Rain, Wind Doves Cry. You had Dancing in the Dark from the Born in the USA album. Hey, let's hear it for the boy. Footloose. Come on. Little Tina Turner. What's love got to do?
Oh,
got to do with it. Oh, yeah. Good times, man. That's cool. So how did you decide? Because you compete, like, unlike myself, I judge barbecue. You actually have gotten out there and mixed it up and competed. Did you get into competing before the podcast or after? And kind of how did we get to where the podcast was born, taking competition for you into consideration?
So Smoking Hot Confessions has had quite the evolution. So it started out just as a website where I was photographing things I was cooking and writing up recipes and writing different articles and all that sort of thing. And I started that. That was my New Year's Eve resolution on 2014. So January 1, 2015, I bought the domain name, found a website host, and I started working on it from there. And it wasn't until I think August 2015 that Smoking Hot Confessions actually competed as a barbecue team for the first time, and that was at the Burleigh Barbecue Championships. So I haven't been a prolific competitor by any means. I certainly didn't have a huge impact on the on the competition scene.
You've competed in more competitions than I have, so I'm going to give that to you, Ben.
Well, we do have I think maybe 2 or 3 trophies, but we didn't set the competition scene on fire by any means. But I just loved it. I just loved the whole concept. I loved being able to go out for the weekend, camping with 300 of my best mates, and we all cook together, we drink together, we talk and laugh and share, and at the end of the weekend, some guys get recognized for their outstanding work and they get a trophy and everybody feels good and we go home. And the only problem was, and I was just talking to someone about this yesterday, actually, Smoking Hot Confessions didn't start the way that a lot of barbecue teams start. So a lot of barbecue teams are a bunch of guys that get together first and they say, hey, this is something that I want to do. Let's get together and let's do it. And so there's like a co-ownership of the brand. Whereas Smoking Hot Confessions was a brand that I had started myself before we started becoming a competition team.
Okay.
And so I didn't want to give up the creative control of the brand and all that sort of stuff. So instead of bringing in like regular teammates and dividing the costs 4 ways, I didn't think it was fair to ask people to commit to the team and commit to sharing the costs if I wasn't willing to share the brand. So I basically created what I called gypsy teams. And my wife and I are both English language teachers, so we have access to a wide pool of students who've come to Australia to learn some English and get a qualification. But they have incredible experiences and skills from their own country. Their only problem is language. Okay. And being English language teachers, my wife and I speak broken English perfectly. And so we don't have a problem speaking with anybody from anywhere. We're both theater majors from back in the day. So, if it comes down to it, why am I not surprised just about anything?
Yeah. Guys, by the way, one of Ben's service offerings that he offers to the barbecue community is that he MCs events. You could see just by the way he kind of presents himself here. Yeah. Perfect for that. Like, what are some of give people an idea? What are some of the nationalities that kind of make up the mix of who kind of pops in, pops out of that world? Because I know you work, both, with that population.
So we're talking outside of the barbecue team, or we're just talking about just my day job in general now?
Well, no, there's just that they came in and worked with you in the barbecue.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So most commonly was Brazilians. We had quite a few Brazilians.
They don't like fire and meat at all in Brazil.
No, it was quite surprising to see.
Yeah, so shocking.
But one of the guys who became almost semi-permanent because he was just completely hooked on it was this guy. His name's Michael May, and he's from Switzerland, and he's a classically French trained chef.
Okay, Tuffy Stone. All right.
Exactly. Yeah. From
Yeah.
Switzerland. So when my wife was talking to him and said, "Hey, do you want to come and be part of a barbecue competition? You're going to go and spend a weekend camping on the beach down here at Burleigh and you're going to cook some food." He was like, yes, I want that. Yes.
I want this in my life.
Exactly. Yeah. And so part of the conditions were, listen, you have to be able to take instruction. You know, you've got to listen to the way Ben wants things done. Because
yes, chef.
Yes, chef. Well, that was part of it, and not chef. I never ever call myself chef.
I know.
I barely call myself a cook.
No, I know. But that French trained culinary background of just like there's order to things. That play into it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so much. Yeah, because whenever I do compete, I sit down weeks beforehand and I type out run sheets for each of the protein, and it's printed out, it's laminated in multiple copies. So I've got a copy, and whoever I make responsible for that protein has that their copy as well.
Okay.
And it's to the minute. Like I'm so precise and just anally retentive about it it's got to be that way. And but he, because of his training, he was like, yeah, no problem. And just bam, bam, bam. What's next? And he loved it so much that we did that one at Burleigh. And then the very next weekend we went down to Bangalore, and it was polar opposite from the Burleigh competition, even though it was only about an hour's drive away. So Burleigh, it was still July or August, so it was still winter here in Australia. Mm-hmm. But on the Gold Coast, winter on the Gold Coast, we all still go to the beach and still go swimming and surfing, and like it's about the same temperature as summer. It's just not as humid.
Right.
But Bangalore is a little bit inland, and it's got this really steep valley that it's in. And it kind of has its own little ecosystem happening.
Okay.
Because it's in such a low little valley.
Sure.
And anyway, it's always cold, like cold, really cold. Wow. And so I had I've got a 20-inch offset stick burner that I use for competitions.
Any particular brand you want to talk about? Like,
it's from Radar Hill. It's a one of a kind from Radar Hill.
Nice.
And so I've got that there, and part of what I always insist on when I'm captaining a barbecue team is a sleep roster. Because, you know, when it becomes almost like I'm such a man, I'm not going to sleep for 2 days and I'm just going to drink and cook food. And by the time you get to hand in time, everyone's just shattered. Bad decisions are made.
Yeah.
You know, so I always insist on a sleep roster. Everybody gets at least 4 hours sleep so that when it's hand in time, everyone's got at least something happening.
Cognitive capability. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I woke up from my shift of sleeping, from my sleep shift, and I said, "Righto, Michael, it's your turn to go catch some sleep." And this guy was so cold. He had dragged his chair right up to the firebox because his job was just to watch the temperature gauge and put another log on every 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
He had pulled his chair right up. The firebox was like almost in his crotch. He had his legs running down each side of the firebox, and he's hunched over it. And he's like, I'm so cold. It's too cold to sleep. And I said, mate, you're from Switzerland. You've grown up in like 10 feet of snow. And he just looked at me and said, Switzerland is not this cold. And he just huddled the whole night, just huddled over this firebox.
Now, let me ask you real quick. Just like low, medium, high, how would you rate the humidity levels around that area? Is it high humidity, mid, low? Like
on the Gold Coast where I am, it's mid humidity really.
Okay.
So I'm used to it now, but it was quite humid when I did first move here.
Because when it gets cold in an area that has high humidity, that will mess you up. It's like London cold at that point. Because it's like in your bones cold versus that crisp Colorado cold that you can kind of hang with. You know what I mean? So it will. I mean, in his defense, I don't know.
It's bone chillingly cold. Yeah.
But this is Florida kid going, it's cold. It's 60 degrees.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I had the same experience. So last year I went down to the Hobart Barbecue and Blues Festival, and I was you
Hobart's in Tasmania, right?
That's right. Yeah. It's the capital city of Tasmania, the southernmost part of Australia.
Okay.
And it's down near the Antarctic, sort of like it's not close. You can't see it, but like it's.
But you're getting there. You're in the sphere.
Yeah. And it was January, so it was the middle of summer. And as you mentioned before, I MC barbecue festivals, and I help with social media promotions. I do content creation for them, videos and write-ups and photography and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So they hired me to go down there and work on their festival there with them. And so I rock up from the Gold Coast, and I've got jeans and thick socks and my boots on, and I've got my T-shirt, I've got my hoodie. My hoodie's pulled up. I'm eyeing off my backpack because I know I've got a beanie in my backpack, and I'm just thinking like, can I go and get that without anybody laughing at me? And all the locals that I'm interviewing on video, they're all standing there in shorts and T-shirts and flip-flops, and they're all going,
"Great!
Oh, it's so wonderful today! How lovely is this?" And I'm standing there beside them trying to hold the microphone, going, "Yeah, it's lovely, it's lovely."
Yeah, it's like when I moved from Florida to Chicago. That they call it the hawk, that wind that comes off of Lake Michigan and it screams around those buildings in the Loop area of Chicago. Knock you on your ass, bro. Like knock you down cold. Like I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready. I thought I was ready. I wasn't ready.
I've chatted a bit with Mikey from Man Meat Barbecue, and he's from Chicago, I think, as well.
Yeah, he's in the suburbs area. That's right.
Some of the photographs of him, he's out cooking in like 4 foot of snow on a Kamado. I'm like, no, too much snow. Any snow is too much snow for me.
Yeah. And you got Mike from Code 3 Barbecue. There's St. Louis. I mean, they get some of that too. It's that's a whole different deal.
Well, I lived in South Korea for 2 years.
That's right. By the way, look, just for you, man. Check it out.
Hey, kimchi.
Yeah. Deliciousness. That's right. Just for you, buddy.
My students used to tell me, teacher, eat kimchi, no SARS. Eat kimchi, no cancer. Eat kimchi, no AIDS.
Okay.
And I said, you know how AIDS is transmitted, right? And they're like, yes. And I said, I don't think kimchi has much to do with that. And they're like, no.
Unless they eat it in a different way than you did. Yeah.
The only thing I could think of was if you eat enough kimchi, then your breath is going to be so strong that
no danger of HIV. That's right. Yeah. I'm telling you though, man, I'm addicted to this stuff. It's so good. So delicious. Oh,
yeah. But in Korea, it snows in winter and the sidewalk's all ice over.
Oh.
And I'm a farm boy from Australia. And so, I can ride horses, I can ride motorbikes, I can build fences, I can drive a tractor. Cannot walk on ice. Completely cannot.
Zero balance.
So the first year that I was there, I'd been there like 2 days, and a friend of mine he'd already gone over there about a year before.
Right.
He rings my apartment and says, jump in a taxi, tell them this, and they'll take you to where I am, and we're going to have dinner at this nice Korean restaurant that I know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So I go out to meet this, to go meet this guy, and I get out of the taxi and I open the door. I've already paid the taxi, of course. Open the door, step out onto the sidewalk, close the door of the taxi, turn around. My feet just go out from underneath me, crack on my back, straight down on the ice. And if you've seen videos of like baby deer or baby goats or baby cows, when they first are born and they're trying to stand up and they get their front legs up, and then their back legs are sliding out. That was me on the ice. So I had my hands on the ice trying to stand up, and I could not get my legs underneath me, just slip. And all these, all the young Koreans who were going out for the night were just sort of walking past laughing at me. And, it's the middle of winter, it's snow. I'm wearing 16 layers and there's Korean girls in mini skirts and high heels just going across the ice.
The equivalent of the Harajuku girl in Korea. That's right.
Yeah. And it must have been 5 or 10 minutes I was there on the ice trying to get up. And finally, a little old Korean lady, must have been 70, 80 years old, bent over in the middle from like years of hard work, hobbles over and sort of grabs me under the arms and just sort of holds me steady to help me stand up. And she took me over to the wall, like on the opposite of the roadside of the curb, takes me to the wall of the buildings, and then mimes, mimes for me to hold onto the wall as I'm trying to get down the street. So I had to walk half a block holding onto the wall of this apartment building. And until I got to the corner where the restaurant was.
Spider-Man. That's right. Oh my God. Crazy. Oh man. So one of the things that you do such a good job of, since you literally, like, traveled to, you've had multiple trips here to the US and barbecue experiences. Is that right? So,
yep.
You've seen and experienced some of the key differences. And one of the things I want to make sure we touch on before, we get done here is some of the things that we in America may not understand take place in, barbecue in Australia, even maybe in organizations like KCBS, for instance. And there are I know there's at least one other major barbecue association in Australia, if not others. Just kind of give us a general picture of that, if you would, man.
So the biggest one in Australia is the Australasian Barbecue Alliance. And that was founded by Jay Beaumont and Jess Pryles and Adam Roberts. And I'm sure you're familiar with Jess Pryles. You probably had her on the show here a couple of times before. And they really sort of kicked off the competition scene back in 2014, I think was the first competition. And it's just grown and grown and grown and grown and grown from there. And since that's happened, it's sort of, it's built the scene over here. They were holding competitions all around Australia. And as a result, KCBS became interested. So we've now got some KCBS competitions here in Australia, not a lot. We're still mostly ABA. But yeah, so we've got those two. There have been a few sort of smaller bodies kind of start up and haven't made it. They've sort of struggled and they've had to shut it down. But the two that are still really running strong at the moment are the ABA and KCBS here in Australia.
Right. And so the events themselves, do they adhere strictly to the 4 meats that we're all used to as far as, as that goes, or are there variations that we don't necessarily, I mean, we have ancillary events here, obviously, but are there other things that are going on over there that we may not see here?
So one of the things that we've always had here in Australia with our competition barbecue is kind of unbridled creativity. So because the ABA really kicked things off, that they were able to make up rules that would suit the Australian population. That they didn't have to necessarily inherit a set of entrenched 35-year-old rules. So we've got a lot more creativity in things like categories for the competition and things like that. So there are no compulsory categories, I don't think, with ABA. I don't think so. But promoters can have special categories if they want to. So for example, the Burley barbecue competition here, which is my local one, it's actually, last time it ran, it switched from ABA to KCBS, but for years before that, it had been ABA. And his that promoter, Greg Dean, his thing was seafood. So because we're literally, barbecuing on the beach, there was even a little side competition about who could go out to the beach and catch a fish and bring the fish in and cook it and serve it in there. Now that was just a little side pot competition. That wasn't part of the grand champion, but so
did it happen? Did someone do it?
Oh yeah. I want to say it was the lads from Double Barrel Barbecue. I think.
All right. That's so cool.
It's 2 or 3 years ago now.
Sure. No. Yeah. But just the fact that it happened, that's very cool.
Yeah. So we often have lamb. So we've got beef, pork, chicken, lamb. Those are the four most common
like
ones.
leg of lamb, rack of lamb, like any lamb. Like, is there
lamb usually is an open category unless the promoter specifically specifies. So there are some competitions that are just beef. And so you'll have the brisket category, the beef rib category, that sort of thing.
So that's something we don't see here. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen beef ribs as part of a competition environment in the States ever.
Oh, I love handing in beef ribs as a competition hand in. I've done it a couple of different ways. I always get the bones in a set of 3 rather than individual bones.
Yeah.
And I get the butcher to run them through the bandsaw down the middle, because the only way you're going to get 6 of them in a plate is if you cut them in half.
Okay.
And so I have in the past handed in little sort of half size.
It's like little short rib kind of things. Like
it's a short rib. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what we get in the store here. We get these little things that are like this long.
Yep.
They're little nuggets, and they're actually fun to cook, but they're not like that sexy big dino bone Texas style deal.
Yeah. Or the other thing I'll do is I'll cook them whole as a 3-bone plate, and then run a knife down between the bones and the meat, and slice it up and cube it up like it's a brisket, and I'll present it like a brisket with burnt ends and slices.
Yeah, so, Lucas echoed your he lamb is pretty much open to whatever. Like, again, you hear pork collar, but then you guys like, lamb neck, is a very fatty kind of unctuous kind of deal. That's what I was talking to the guys in Tasmania a little bit about, that being a thing. It's like, all right. Yeah, know your way around that particular piece, and work with that. I would be lost, of course. But like I've done leg of lamb, I've done rack of lamb. Like I think more often than not, I find, at least here in Central Florida, I think more people who have only tried leg of lamb and not like those little lamb mini, help me with the cut, those little mini like porterhouses, little tiny, like, those, they're not the rack of lamb, but it's the other cut. I don't know, but just the younger the animal, basically, the less it's going to have that kind of gamey kind of
the older they get, the tougher they get. Although mutton is starting to come back into style again, which is quite interesting, because mutton,
and that's a good thing.
Quite an old lamb. So it's basically it's looking at beasts that do have that super strong gamey flavor.
Okay.
And then cooking that. So I'm starting to notice mutton appearing on like restaurant menus and things again. So it's only a matter
now, are they cooking it to keep that flavor, or are they doing things to mitigate that flavor, like soaking it in buttermilk or doing anything like that?
I haven't actually tried it, to be honest.
Okay.
I'd imagine if you're going to make a big deal out of saying that you cook mutton, it's going to be because you want to really promote that strong lamb flavor. And all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
It's a man's lamb all day. Yeah.
Yeah. But the farm that I grew up on that I mentioned before, we had goats, and goats are really good eating. They taste quite similar to lamb, but they're not
like
as
young, old, the whole deal. Like
I've like lambs. You don't want to eat them any older than about 1 year old.
Okay.
So like 1 year old is the perfect time to process them and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it eats just like lamb, but doesn't have that sort of that fatty aftertaste in the mouth that you can sometimes get with lamb.
That kind of earthy. Yeah. Cool. All right, man. Well, thank you. I mean, that's again, just, the creativity like that you see in some of the things. Like I love that spirit, and it seems like the Australasian guys really just celebrate that and keep that rocking and rolling. And that's really cool. One of the things I want to make sure we do, wait, hold on one thing. Lucas, I sent Rub a big shaker of tree bark. You need to go steal some from. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Cause as soon as they allow me to go out and about, we'll leave it there. I can Rub Bagby with Swamp Boys Barbecue lives, 5 miles from my house, maybe.
Wow.
That's as the crow flies, it's probably 3. But I'm not trying to drive through, strip malls and shopping centers. So,
just order a drone from Amazon, fly it over to his house.
Now you're talking.
Carrying a little basket, have him put the rub in the basket, and then you just fly it back to your house again. Easy.
You say that. One of the things I've noticed here, anyway, if you go price a piece of technology that allows you to communicate or interact with someone remotely now, dude, it's like when hurricanes hit Florida, plywood goes up by double or triple, right? like a Logitech webcam is now $100 more than it was 6 months ago. It's ridiculous.
Oh, really?
So, it's getting kind of weird. Yeah. So luckily, guys, you can see, Ben's got the sweet setup. We won't go into that. He's got the nice clear camera. I'm rocking the old school like fuzzy cam, but if I wanted to up my game, I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna wait it out. All right.
I did forget to mention before as well. We have had the SCA come and join us in Australia now as well, and so the ABA and the SCA have partnered up.
Excellent.
And so what a lot of competitions do now is they do an SCA on the first day. And then in the afternoon, the ABA comp starts, and they move up and they cook through the night and do their ABA hand-ins the following day. And the competitions that I've been hired to do photography for, the shots of the hand-in boxes from the SCA competitions have just been wild.
Stunning.
The creativity in the SCA is just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And, Kids Q Nation.
Mm-hmm.
You familiar with that? Yeah. So Matt Staunton, who I interviewed a couple of days ago, his episode of the podcast will come out next week. So this afternoon's episode of Smoking Hot Confessions is the 100th episode.
Hey, congratulations, buddy. That's awesome.
Thank you. So my wife and I recorded that 2 days ago. We sat here in the studio with a couple of beers and some Fireball and just chatted about barbecue.
Now you're getting Tim. Hey, Tim Malloy, shout out to you. Timeline, Tim Malloy, Fireball all day. Yeah, big handle of Fireball and
love Fireball.
Ice cold. Yeah, there's guys. If you again take your time, scroll through all the images on the Ben. What's your Instagram handle?
Smoking Hot Confessions.
Okay, there you go. You'll see the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where Ben's choking his child. It's fantastic. You'll see all kinds of stuff.
Just to be clear, that was a staged photograph. It was
staged photograph. That's right. We don't need any.
Please don't call Department of Community Services.
That's right. But there's one shot where you've got the Fireball bottle just right up to the kisser. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's great.
That was a good day, actually. I just finished making an apple and Fireball cobbler in the PK360.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, mate, it was divine. It was absolutely divine. So,
all right, I'll be expecting that recipe in my inbox any day now.
Yeah, I'll be putting it up. I'll be putting it up soon. Actually, I've just got to get some time to sit down and actually cut the video and edit the video together properly. Nice. And
tag me, man. Let me know it's out there, and I'll help share it out. Plus, I'll steal it like a champ.
I will do.
Awesome. All right, listen. The last thing I want to make sure we do, well, there's two things. I always say that. There's the last thing, and there's another thing, and there's a thing after the thing. But
I'm on holidays right now, so
we're rocking
all day if you want to. That's fine.
So great, right? This is a time where I think, I talked to my buddy Craig Tabor up in the Atlanta area. He long time was a Big Green Craig. You can find him at Craig Tabor now he's coming out with a book focusing largely on the big green egg and cooking with it here soon. But he has really enjoyed just being at home with his family, right, during this time period and cherishing those moments. He's got 2 little girls. They're beautiful. And man, this is that time to kind of take a break. So it's my podcast. We can talk if I want to. That's right. So one of the things I want to make sure we cover, and because I'm ignorant, I'll say it. I have a couple of the sort of big name barbecue folks out there. The Smoking Joint comes to mind as far as the people that, have kind of made it over here and so on and so forth. Maka, leather goods down in Tasmania. Obviously, guys, check him out. He's not only does he make amazing products by hand, he is just quite the individual, just a fantastic guy. The other,
I've actually got a Maca knife roll.
Oh yeah,
in this office somewhere. I'm just looking for where I've put it.
All right, keep looking while I spiel on. The last thing is Red Gum Barbecue, down a little bit more south from where you are. I think right around the southern, like the southeastern portion, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, of Australia. Red Gum Barbecue. But that's it. So educate me a little bit about if we're going to talk about barbecue in Australia and, the sort of who's who of Aussie barbecue, if you would, pay some homage to some of the people that are equivalent to our, like, Johnny Trigg and those guys, right? But then, maybe throw a little love and spread a little sunshine on the names of some of the people who are like really now current doing it.
Well, the first one to mention's got to be Lucas, who's been watching this video and commenting on this video. So he's from,
and his products are legit the best. Yes.
Yeah. So Lucas is from Roll and Smoke Barbecue, and he is just like, he's at the top of the spear there. Like he's really right up there. He has been invited to go compete over in the States in the past, and he's gone on big road trip tours around competing in different barbecue competitions over there and all that sort of stuff. So he's multiple grand champion, trophy winning, one of the funniest and nicest guys I've met on the scene. He's been a good friend of Smoking Hot Confessions for as long as Smoking Hot Confessions has been around. So the first, hat tip's got to go off to Lucas, I'd say there. Guys that have been lighting the scene on fire, if you'll pardon the pun, in the last 12 months has been Butcher's Axe out of Melbourne. They pretty much had the season wrapped up by around March last year. It was just incredible. They had something like across ABA and KCBS, they had something like 5 back-to-back grand champions one weekend after the next.
That's Clark Crew. That's Clark Crew kind of gig. I mean, that's serious. Yeah.
Yeah. So off the back of that, they've released a lamb rub called Hunter. And I did see a post from them about 2 days ago. They're taking pre-orders for a beef rub. So that'll be interesting to get some of that and give some of that a try, because I know that the Hunter rub is just sensational. It's really good.
What are the components of that rub? I mean, not to, obviously you're not going to get their secrets away, but flavor wise, like what kind of makes it work with lamb so well?
The Hunter rub it's kind of a traditional lamb sort of flavor. So there's hints of mint, there's hints of rosemary in there. Lemon myrtle, which is it's a native herb here in Australia, is really, really good with lamb as well. And there's a couple of different rubs that use lemon myrtle with lamb. So shout out to Barbecue Mafia then, I guess, as well there as well, because I just thinking about the lemon myrtle in the lamb rub, I just cooked a leg of lamb on a rotisserie over an Ozpig there about 2 days ago, and I used the
Ozpig you have. Guys, check that. That is one of the looking cookers, and it's very affordable. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to break the bank, right?
No, the basic Ozpig package starts at about $300, and for what it is, that's outstanding value. So it's designed to be a portable cooking system. So it's designed to, and it does, it all breaks down. Everything gets stored inside itself, and then it goes in a little carry bag. So if you go out camping, you can take it out with you, and it's a heater / fireplace / cooker. And
yeah, it totally does look like a little like potbelly stove almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like a little potbelly stove, but it's a bit bigger than a potbelly stove. And they've got, 1,001 different attachments onto it. So depending on how you want to cook on it, I've got a rotisserie kit. They've got a smoker attachment that sits on the top, and it kind of turns the Ozpig into like a bullet smoker. So you got the fire down the bottom, and then different grill levels in a vertical chamber on the top. They've got all sorts of different grill plates for grilling. You can run it off with sticks, so it's like a live fire, like an open fire, or you can put charcoal in it and run a low and slow fire, which is how I did the lamb leg the other day. Just put a little bit of charcoal in the bottom and ran like a low and slow fire with the lamb dripping down onto the coals, which was sensationally delicious. And then last night I put the leftovers into a lamb and bacon pie, which was just sensational. So yeah, that's a good bit of fun. I've got that on the front deck. It lives out there with the PK360, which is good. So if we're just sort of steering back to the big names.
Sure. Yeah.
So, there's the competition ladder is looking pretty quiet this year, as you can imagine.
Yeah, of course. Now, hey, let me ask you this. You mentioned Jess Pryles. And she is, to my knowledge, the only person that has sort of let's call it a dual citizenship of barbecue, if you will, right? She's got a lot of fans here in the States. Hardcore carnivore. If you haven't checked it out, guys, give it a look-see. Does she make a presence pretty strong, like on the normal basis over there as well?
She comes back a couple of times a year. She has been coming back like a little bit less often recently, but that's naturally going to happen when you start to establish your life somewhere else. She's married now, and she's settled in Texas, and she's a naturalized Texan. So Bluebird Barbecue crew is doing really well. Aussie Pit Boys are doing well. My buddy Dave from Lick of Smoke, currently sitting at number 4 on the ladder there. The Smoking Crew, Country Boys Barbecue, Dan White, of course, longtime friend of the show as well, great guy. And when we were talking about Bangalore, sort of an hour ago, we were talking about the Bangalore barbecue competition. The last time actually that competition there, when I was talking about Michael hugging the firebox, I was there was Lucas Armstrong on the end of the row with Roll & Smoke Barbecue, and then Dan from Country Boys, and then us, and then Double Barrel Barbecue. So, we're quite a close knit little community there. We all know each other, and we've sort of been hanging around together for a couple of years now and all that.
That's awesome. Yeah. There's one company. Do you ever come across Lane's barbecue products there?
Oh yeah.
So Ryan Lane is he's got a remarkably strong presence in Australia, actually. And he doesn't compete. He doesn't go out there. He made a connection. I don't really know what that connection is. That maybe you can help us understand a little bit.
I haven't interviewed Brett, so I don't know. I haven't got his story from him.
Sure. Okay.
I've asked him a couple of times. I think he's a little bit shy to get on microphone, but it's okay. I'll
it's like Jay Durbin with Tennessee Moho Barbecue here. Yeah.
But just from observations, he's having just had a couple of personal one-to-one chats with him. He's one of the nicest guys out there. He's really genuine. What you see is what you get with him, and he's been very generous to the competition barbecue scene. So sponsoring different events, sponsoring a whole bunch of different teams. That they've grown and expanded over the years, and they've just taken on Rachel as a general manager now. So the Australian arm of the business is definitely growing and doing really big things.
Yeah. And again, we're talking about Lane's Barbecue. So, guys here in the States, check them out. I know that they're readily available, and they have a lot of nice, interesting flavors. They kind of mix and match and kind of mix it up a little bit. So, so let's kind of. I want to make sure whenever I talk to anyone, I like to give them a chance to, offer some general shout outs and good feels to people who play, whether it's from a personal or a professional standpoint, right? Who play a markedly powerful role in their lives, their careers. And Ben, I want to give you that opportunity as well. People that really kind of, have maybe had an influence on you, have helped you get to where you are now, kind of give you kind of that push every now and again. Like, who do we need to talk about to really give the general shout outs and good feels?
So just in terms of my cooking, my personal cooking, the shout outs would have to go again to Lucas and Dan. For example, at that competition, when we were the three of us were on the row there together, they actually made a point of not putting up any of the tent walls, and actually said, "Hey Benny, come over here, look at this, watch me do this, get this,"
Wow.
So they used that competition to sort of take it under their wing and actually show me how they do their stuff.
Nice.
Which has greatly influenced my cooking. So,
well, and it probably increased your appreciation, right? Of what, though. I mean, I know as a podcaster and a person involved kind of on the periphery of barbecue, I'm shocked at the number of like barbecue judges, for instance, that don't stay after and talk and get to know the teams, right? And want to really learn the culture. So that's cool that they kind of gave you that level of insight and instruction.
Oh, yeah. Because like, particularly considering that those two guys are multiple grand championship winning guys, like they really know what's up. Like they know their stuff. So to just sort of see me sort of standing there, like I'm a solid mid packer. Like I'll be in the middle to high of the mid pack.
Hey, that's not terrible territory. I mean,
it's not terrible. No, it's definitely the best barbecue on my street.
That's respectable. King of the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess in terms of my cooking, there's that. In terms of Smoking Hot Confessions and the overall brand of that, there's been a couple of people who've always been really supportive of all of that. So of course there's my wife and son who are incredibly supportive and understanding, and they love to get involved in as much of this stuff as they possibly can. And of course, she's from Arkansas, which is great. Whenever I say, "Hey, so there's this thing happening over in America with barbecue that I'd kind of really like to go to."
Sure,
it's about 3 hours drive from Arkansas. We can go see your family too. So that does go a long way to.
You are king of the radius mapping on that deal. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. So you got like Bretto from the Flaming Mongrels there. He's always been really supportive of Smoking Hot Confessions, and Matt from Smoke and Sappers as well. Like they've always had my back and been in my corner. Anthony from Black Bark Barbecue has been a huge supporter. And I this whole conversation keeps looping back to Bangalore, but Anthony's first ever barbecue competition was with me at that Bangalore competition as well. So the same time. In terms of the business side of Smoking Hot Confessions, there's got to be shout outs go to, of course, the promoters that now hire me. So I don't get to compete as much anymore because I'm now working at more competitions than I was competing at. So
like I'm going to call this sponsor shout out time, but it may be, just people who help to contribute economically to what it is you're doing. So we'll throw this up there. Yeah. A little, how you doing? So yeah, let's talk about some of the business folks that help you do what you do.
So there's a couple of event promoters who hire me regularly for their events, which is beautiful and very much appreciated. And through the years, we've built like a strong working relationship and that. So, you've got Julian up here in Queensland with the Brisbane Barbecue Festival and the Barbecue and Beer Roadshow and the Sunshine Coast Barbecue Festival. Rob Moyer down in South Australia in Victoria. He's got Up in Smoke, Meat, Fireside, and I'm mental blanking the last one now, Fat Trip Barbecue Competition. Cool. So those are two of the promoters that have hired me the most often. Jules from Jagged over in WA, she and Stefan from the Mondo Community Warriors. They run charity barbecue competitions. So I donate my time and services to that, but they do pay for my flight to go over there. Yeah. But I've been over there for 2 years running now, so that's been beautiful to go over and meet the other side of the country. Nice. Because as I said earlier, there's nothing in the middle of Australia, right? So it's like this huge divide between the
no joke. Yeah, I mean, just to give people understanding, what is the typical cost for you to fly from where you are to the opposite side of the country? I mean, if you had to guess, I know that varies from time to time, and.
I think when I went over in November last year, it was about $1,000.
Wow.
For a return flight.
Yeah. So that's no joke, man. I mean, covering expenses is a big deal.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. In terms of sponsor shout outs, so I haven't competed as Smoking Hot Confessions for a long time, so I don't have like competition sponsors, but
Right.
sponsors of the podcast, for example.
Yeah, huge.
There's been some regular sponsors there that I'd really like to recognize. Abel from Clean Heat Charcoal. He's done a lot of sponsorship with the show, and again, Jules from Jagged has done a lot of sponsorship with the show as well. So, if you're looking for charcoal, head to Clean Heat, and if you're looking for some Australian designed and manufactured smokers, hit up Jagged for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what it's all about, man. Like making sure that you nurture and take care of those relationships, because you don't come by them easily. And like you said, there's a relationship and a trust factor involved that you want to make sure you take care of and let them know that you appreciate. So, Ben, seriously, I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job. Hopefully, everyone watching appreciates kind of the general sense of what we had to talk about tonight. Like my goal was to, the fact that it was going to be upbeat and positive and awesome, that's a given because Ben's involved, right? That's easy. Check the box. There you go. But, give a little bit of insight as to what's going on as far as Australian barbecue is concerned. It's the same deal. When I was talking with, Brent and the guys from Brazil, it's always fascinating for me as an American to see what components of sort of this style of cuisine, if you will, get adopted, whether it's Italy, Germany, like the Germans, the most cowboy hats I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, it's ridiculous. They love it. Like, I remember, so after college, this is 1995. Ooh, yeah. I went and lived with my brother and his family outside of Stuttgart, Germany, and they had a 4th of July. I was there for about 6 months. Yeah, it was a tough life. Yeah. But I no beer ever anywhere to drink that was any good in Germany.
Of course not.
Yeah, no. No meat, no beer, was awful. Pretzels, deliciousness. Spätzle, so good. So we have a situation where they had a 4th of July event and they invited people from the German economy to come on the base. Ben, you've never seen so many non-Americans in cowboy hats and belt buckles and cowboy boots in your whole life. And all they wanted to drink. And granted, it was the sort of Europeanized versions of these. So the alcohol was kicked up just a bit, but it was, you can guess it, Bud Light and Miller Lite, or Budweiser.
Really?
That's it. That's what they wanted. And
wow.
I mean, the local Stuttgarter Hofbrau beer was so amazing and delicious. Like, I couldn't wrap my brain around why they would want to be drinking this stuff, but yeah, it was just the cultural vibe. And in Italy, it's all about the black shirts and the belt buckles and the dark jeans and the Jack Daniels. You know what I mean? Like, it's just cool to see how different cultures embrace parts of, what we're all about. Down Panhoca in Brazil, sponsored by Jim Beam, right? So it's all about it. And it's a really cool thing. And low and slow barbecue in Brazil has only been a thing for a handful of years, man. It's pretty new. And I know a couple of big name barbecue rub and sauce providers here in the States I've been talking lately to, and I'm like, hey, you might want to look and see how you can get your products down there, because straight fire, bro, as far as like passion and the culture. Yeah, it's crazy. It's nuts. So Ben, you've been generous with your time tonight. I appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure. This is probably the first time we've actually sort of spoken and seen each other face to face. We did a podcast together.
So.
Yeah. But I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
I think I was a guest on your show just before BBQA last year.
Correct. Yeah. And congratulations, by the way, guys. First place podcast in BBQA, and I think first place website, right?
Second place website, first place website. Podcast. Yeah, we did really well this year. At BBQA. We got like 7 awards or something. Yeah,
so great, man. And guys, look, check out Smoking Hot Confessions. Ben, maybe to round out the show, I'm going to ask you to creep in your brand a little bit. Can you push the button, man? Can you play the song?
Okay, all right.
A little flavor. Sure. Here we go.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite part. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate your time tonight. And so if you guys see any, I'm okay. Really, it's fine. Any of the recordings of this will be on Facebook and YouTube. I'll shoot you a link to both. Well, you can see the one on Facebook. I'll put a little thumbnail on the YouTube one with basically something akin to what we did for the marketing for this podcast episode or the.
Yeah, great.
I always say that podcast episode. What is this? This is a webcast episode. I don't even know what whatever this is.
I think that was the name.
Yeah,
Isn't the term podcast?
Yeah, vodcast. Ooh.
Yeah.
Man, see, guys, look, don't sleep on Ben. He's got the terminology. He's got the knowledge. He's your go-to source for all things awesome, fun, and good with barbecue. So thanks, man. Listen, when I end the broadcast here in a second, hang out. Let's chat for a quick bit. Everybody else, guys, thanks for hanging out. You've been great. Your comments were awesome. And we'll catch you guys later. All right. Bye.
And there you have it, family. That was the barbecue swapcast between the BBQ Beat podcast and the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue podcast. I think I just managed to put the word podcast in the one sentence 3 times. That's a personal record. I'm going to have to write that down on my calendar and celebrate it every 12 months. All right. Well, look, that was a lot of fun recording that with Kevin, and I'm sure that you've enjoyed it as well. Make sure you do look him up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all the rest of that. Follow his show and subscribe to it on the podcast apps. He does great work. He's also been recognized and awarded by the NBBQA. So do make sure you get into that and enjoy what he's offering as well. And that's the end of the show. So until next time, take care of each other and keep on queuing.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.